Hello, we are live.
Hello, everybody.
Wow, we have never streamed together, I don't think, and it's mostly because of your internet, right?
We streamed together one time
Did we?
with John.
Oh, I
Yeah, you
don't
don't
think I
remember
even remember that.
I drew Tetsuo Homer?
I do remember you drawing that. I didn't know that was a stream.
Yeah, we were the artists of the stream drawing together.
The good old days. And now you are a successful comic publisher.
I suppose so.
To be publisher. You're in a very weird middle phase right now.
You know what's funny is I think the second to last video or somewhere thereabouts that we put on this channel, we talked about me working on a comic book.
Yeah.
And completely dropped this channel.
Yeah, because you were busy with your comic book and for no other reason.
Yeah, and you went off and you did your thing, became a freelance editor, and made 2 comic books in the space of time where I made 1.
Yeah, they're great quality. I got them pulled up already, so let me show you just how good they are. Look at this. Wow, masterpiece right there. I honestly do really like this page, but
I do
your
too.
art
Yeah.
is
I'm gonna
a
praise
lot
it.
better.
I mean, since you already got it up, I guess we can start here. I was going to lead into this as a topic eventually.
Yeah.
The importance of the first page.
Yeah, we're just gonna be talking about how we put together comics, and I've been guiding you as best I could through my understanding of comics, and you've just been studying on your own to surpass me in a matter of like 2 years.
You didn't have much choice. I came to you and constantly sought feedback and guidance, and your good nature basically obligated you into helping me.
Well, I was happy to give it, and I may have forced my opinion on you at sometimes too. But yeah, let's just talk about how the process for making comics that we kind of worked out together, and yeah, the biggest thing I always emphasize is big first page. You want to capture them right away. That it takes effort to turn a page. It takes those that extra calorie or so to move your hand that bit and turn it. And people don't want to put that effort in.
Is that how you're gauging comics as you're flipping through them? It's like, do I want to expel the energy to flip this page?
Whether you think it
You lost
consciously or not, that is what it is.
It's true. It's true. In the words of Alan Moore, the magic spell is at its weakest between pages.
Wait, so I've got Itch the 5 in chat say acknowledge us. I'm sorry that we didn't acknowledge the chat. Thank you for coming on and watching us. This is a live stream. This isn't a recorded video. We can take things easy a bit. We can enjoy ourselves. We're not used to this kind of format, especially not Kadin.
Yes, especially me. I never stream because my internet is really, really slow, but I wanted to attempt this anyways because, I'm feeling good about having such a successful Kickstarter, and I wanted to celebrate with my buddy Ben.
Yeah. Oh, man, it really is exciting. We got so pumped for this. I spent forever on a video that apparently was not expected of me, but I'm glad I could make it like a very professional looking trailer. Yeah.
I feel like we should probably provide some introduction to us instead of just taking it for granted that people know who we are and what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
Well, I am Ben, and I just kind of do my own freelance editing stuff. But for this stream in particular, the reason we're here today, the reason we've all gathered together, is because Kadin, you started a Kickstarter for your comic called Loogie, and it is now 13 hours and 43 minutes and 23 seconds away from closing. So we want to make a final push for that because it turned out amazing, and we want you to sell as many as you can to as many people as are interested.
Yes, and the history there for me and Ben is we've been friends for quite a long time at this point, and like so long that Ben knew me before I knew how to draw, like a
Yeah.
long time ago. And he's always been interested in comics and manga, and we've talked about it quite a bunch over the years.
Yep.
And he's actually the guy who got me into One Piece, which is why I asked you to draw that one piece of fan art. No, well, it's not fan art. I asked you to do it.
Oh yeah, let me
Because
get that as well. Yeah.
you're both the editor of Loogie and the guy who cursed me to be a One Piece fan. So you are uniquely qualified to draw this.
Yeah, if this comic, if Lugi is like One Piece in any way, every way that it is similar is because of me.
It's true. I think I've managed to resist you a little bit just by being me, but yeah. So yeah, we were talking about first pages, and go ahead, go show that artwork. I love this so much, guys. It is the best. I gave Ben hardly any guidelines. I just told him I want you to do a crossover between Lugi and Luffy. In fact, let me tell you what kind of guy Ben is, using this as an example. I said you do not need to color it, and I only said Lugi and Luffy, and then Ben gives me this. 3 times as many characters, and he colored it when I said not to. Because I know Ben hates coloring. No. You went above and beyond, because you're just that kind of guy.
It was fun though. I wanted to make it like a One Piece color spread. He makes those every few chapters for the manga, and it has this kind of fun hangout energy, which I want Lugi to have.
I love this type of stuff. It's one of my favorite parts about One Piece, is seeing all of those big spreads where the gang is just hanging out.
Yeah, and that's I'm gonna force you to do that for every 3 to 4 chapters of Lugi as well. Right?
I'm gonna acknowledge people in the chat. Ichthus, I see you. You're a usual over in the Draw and Talk streams. Studio Super, cool guy. Also makes comics. Bobo, mutual friend of ours and Ben's.
Oh, Bobo's
and
here,
then
yeah.
Andy, cool dude he's also in this Appalachian region. And Harry, hey Harry. Harry's great. He's hilarious.
Yeah, Harry's in New York, all the way from the Netherlands. Man, but you caught the live stream. Thank you for stopping by.
Stuff Pop is here. I think I saw Kieran. All right, that's everybody.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. It's like even just like this many people, like considering that this channel that we're on has 200 subscribers, hey, that's nice.
Yeah.
And short notice too.
True, and we haven't used it in forever. These are probably all from Twitter. Hey, Nick is here.
Yeah.
All right, bring up your page. I want to talk about it.
Yeah, we're gonna do serious business now. We can't meander. So, first page is what I always insist on, being perfect in every way, or being intriguing in every way, and just being a good, I don't know, just introduction to the story, to a character, and have a hook to it.
This page makes me curious. I legit think this is probably one of the best first pages that I've seen.
It's probably the best first page I've read, personally.
I mean, it ends with a little girl saying she decided to become a serial killer, and it immediately makes you go, okay, what the fuck is this story about? How much are you going to lean into this? Oh my god, Indra's here too. Everybody's here.
Hey, all of our cool art friends and other friends who aren't into art.
But yeah, it communicates so much. It tells you the premise, it gives you a little bit of the tone, it gives you the main character, and you kind of know what you're going to get all in one package.
Yeah. It was in Hirohiko Araki, the mangaka for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. He released a book called, what was it called? Mastering Manga or something like that. I honestly don't remember what it's even called. But he released a book that describes the process of how he learned how to make manga and what he thinks the good tools of the trade are. And he does say, first page is very important. You want to establish setting, character, and something unexpected in the first page, and tone as well. You need to establish a lot.
Something unexpected. Huh. I think I hit all of those except for that something unexpected. On my first page.
Necessarily, yeah. I'd say it's not. I mean, first of all, it's not a hard and fast rule. You can always break it for whatever you think works.
It's true.
That's
Do you have my first page? I can send it to you.
Yeah,
if you
go
ahead
and I think I have it somewhere. I can look for it real quick. But yeah.
Oh no, it's more than. It's too big for me to send.
Oh yeah, your internet it's already straining to the limit, being on a voice call. So let me find it. I'm sure I've got it. Because
about this first page, I actually, it being the first one, it was the first one I laid out, and I did it in a kind of bad way, and Ben actually took it and like redrew it, and I used Ben's layout instead of mine. And that would happen about 2 or 3 more times throughout this comic book.
I shouldn't be doing that, by the way. I don't think a good editor is just like,
do it
my way.
It's not how you said it. You just said, hey, I think this would work and be more effective. In fact, Ben never tells me do it this way. He always gives very good reasons for his
I just strongly imply you should do it my way.
Yeah.
But yeah, you've got the intrigue of what this monster even is. I mean, that's something.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels a little generic. It's basically just action, but you're not invested in it yet. You don't know why you should care. So it drops you into an exciting moment, but it's kind of shallow.
Yeah, I'd say that's
in
probably
my opinion.
That's probably the case. That's not necessarily bad because it still ticks a lot of the boxes that it gave. It's good. Mm-hmm. Like there's no text on this version that you sent me for the video I made, but there's character interactions here. There's action to just have something driving forward already.
I think if this was to propel someone to turn this page, the way you said earlier, it would be because of the aesthetic and tone more than anything else. Like someone who knows this is the type of story they want, like some techno-futuristic apocalyptic story.
Yeah, and I'd say that's not a bad thing to do, especially because your art style does have an immediate appeal to it. It's like, it really is, I called it this when I was tweeting about it, but it's like a great fusion between comics and manga styles that's kind of appealing to both worlds. So I really like that.
I try. And as I go on, I go further and further into the manga camp.
See, I'm fine with that. I don't think anyone should have a problem with that.
The noses on my characters are almost completely gone.
As long as you're not at just a singular dot in the middle of the face, I think you're fine.
Andy says the background music makes them feel like they're in a Pokemon Center.
Oh yeah, I just turned on chill Pokemon music because I figured that wouldn't get any copywriters mad.
Is that bad, Andy? Should we change it?
Everyone wants to live in a Pokemon Center. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's the best part of the game.
Oh yeah, you haven't. In case anyone here hasn't already backed Loogie, you should go ahead and paste the link you said you were getting, because
I should do that.
Sure that's in there too.
I'm so bad at chilling for myself.
But yeah, I'd say this first page, it covers a lot of it. But I do say, in general, I do think something unexpected in some sort of way is a great hook, because I don't know, just changing someone's impression makes them latch on to anything, which is something I've noticed more and more with especially character introductions. If a character acts one way, if you're like, oh, I know this guy's number, I get what this guy's about, he's one of those evil bad guy types, and then he helps a kitten, well, guess what, you're hooked now. It's just that something unexpected gets you hooked into a character.
We can talk about the other greatest first page in all of comicdom, which is One Piece, and that kind of illustrates this point. It has a little boy stabbing himself in the face.
Yeah, so One Piece kind of has like two attempts at a first page, which is perfectly good. And I always refer to One Piece every time I give Kadin advice. It's to a point where it's got to be infuriating by now.
I'm used to it. I actually like it. It's
good.
become an endearing character trait.
Yeah, it's something you can return home to. It's just like, that's classic Ben talking about One Piece again.
Hey, Taylor.
So
Taylor has actually been on this show.
Yeah, man. It's been so long. I've been wanting to do more Sketchy Fellow stuff, but we've just been busy with comics and editing, respectively.
Yeah, both me and Ben want to do more Sketchy Fellows, but it's just a matter of we have to give time to things that actually have some kind of return for them.
Yep.
Whereas Sketchy Fellows has 0.
But yeah,
so yeah, you have the
of
overture here.
Yep. This is basically just a premise setter, but it's such a good, intriguing premise, and it's certainly unexpected that someone who's about to die would say, "Hey, go find my treasure." It's a very intriguing first page. He's just like, I know exactly what's interesting about this world I've created, and here it is distilled in one page. And then
He's got the MacGuffin.
Yeah. And as for the character, this is actually the first page and it's just set up. But the first thing we see of Luffy as a character is him stabbing himself in the face, which I complained about frequently that the anime didn't show that, but I guess they don't want kids imitating this for some reason.
For some reason, yeah.
Yeah. And
but, immediately, it's just attention grabbing.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything I can say. Like it totally gives you an immediate impression of the character too. He's incredibly reckless at this point in his life, and so it's intriguing. It's exciting. It's kind of got that visceral kind of thing that you just can't help but look away from, and it works for the character, and it immediately sets up his arc that he's about to go on, is his recklessness.
Yeah.
So,
we could talk about the introduction of Luigi, but actually I'm not super happy with that either, and I don't want to seem like I'm actually ragging on my comic that I'm trying to tell people to go support. So instead of going into that topic, maybe we could talk about a classic between me and you, and that is, when should you start? How do you know you're ready?
Okay, yep. I always argue with you about this. Right now is the answer to anyone in any circumstance, regardless of anything.
I
Rebuttal?
Agree and disagree with this assertion from Ben. I feel like I could have practiced drawing for another year and still maybe not have been good enough to really begin. But I do acknowledge that drawing comics is probably the best way to get better at drawing comics.
Yes.
But there are a host of fundamentals that will make your life easier, and that you should probably practice those before jumping into the deep end, in my opinion.
I think.
But you can. It's a trap. You could keep going for a long time.
Yes, and that's what you were going to do. And man, I was very forceful with you for years about this because I knew that's the trap you were falling into, and so it's just like I had to be more forceful to just jolt you out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a lot to learn about art, and there always will be. There's people who will always say, I can't do a comic, or whatever artistic endeavor, I can't do this until I learn how to draw hands better. And then next week they say, well, I learned how to draw hands better, but what about the legs? And then next week they say, well, I kind of forgot to draw this week because I was playing video games. And then the next week they say, well, now I need to learn noses, and so on and so forth. And it's just always something more to learn. So you're never going to get to your comic if you need to learn everything before you do it. And
you do level up while doing it, but it's so slow. Like I feel like over the course of this past year, some skills, like if you think of this as an RPG, some skills has gone up and some skills have atrophied. And I want to like see to those skills that have gotten weaker, because I don't think the things that level up with comics is kind of random, because every page is different, every page gives you new problems to solve, which is fun because you're constantly learning new things and you become a bit of a jack of all trades as you progress, and you get good at solving problems no matter what that problem may be, which in my opinion, for that reason, comic artists do not get enough praise. I think they are some of the best artists in the world because they can do everything under the sun.
Yeah,
But there is a lot of
trait
things
is
that I just feel like,
adaptability.
yeah, sure. And man, I did improve. Like, probably not as fast as I would have if I was just hammering and studying and all that stuff. But from page 1 to like the very end, there's a noticeable difference in just the way pages flow. I can't overstate how inexperienced I was when I started this. In fact, it was a little atypical because I immediately went into making this comic after I drew 1 page. That is all the experience I had. And so I didn't really know how to draw expressions like at all. And that was a crash course for me. And I'm still kind of bad at it, in my opinion, but I'm way better than I was at the very beginning. And if there was one caveat to all of this, is I would say don't start with a big comic. That's something I wish I did, was make small 1-page, 4-page comics.
Okay, yes, that's something that we can definitely both agree on, is don't follow your example and make a big 48-page or however long it is. It's somewhere around there, right?
Yeah, it's 48 pages.
Okay, cool. Yeah, don't make it something that long, that quick. I'd say it's probably better to get like a 10-page thing and then maybe like a 20-page thing. What was the term? Get some wins under your belt before you can and build up the momentum before starting to work on such an uber project.
Before we got onto the stream, I was thinking to myself, what did I actually learn through this process? And I think the biggest lesson is just how much of a mental battle making a comic is. Like, not to get too philosophical about it, but it requires a bit of self-mastery, or at least it did for me, to actually put in the long hours that it takes to make each page.
You know what? That's absolutely fair. It took you basically a full year to make this, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of speed bumps along the way for learning it. I'm sure that you'll be able to pump these out much quicker than that going forward. But it's still like that's how long it takes to make and to draw and color and layout and plan story and all that stuff. It takes forever. And that's really hard to do, and that's why I draw little crappy drawing comics.
While I was getting together time lapses, which by the way, you should probably put on one of those.
Oh sure.
While we chit chat. But while I was gathering those, I noticed that the earlier ones were actually much longer in length, and this even for like later pages, like the one that I sent you, where it should have taken, they were more complicated. Those took less time. There was less steps and inputs on that page than there was in the very beginning. Yeah. Because it just took so long for me to figure out what to do through trial and error.
You've gotten so much better, like you said, by the end of doing this comic. Now, that's the learning process, and you don't need to handle all of the learning process before you start. Then, that's always been my argument. You say you atrophied in a few things. I'm curious what you say you've lost proficiency in.
That's a very good question, because art skills are so esoteric. They're hard to define sometimes.
I'm starting to think you just made that up to say that you're right about something.
No, I definitely feel that. I think I need to do like a crash course of like drawing heads again, which is weird because I drew a ton of heads throughout the comic, right? But no, I feel like I kind of fudged it a little bit, and I stopped thinking about it in like purely three-dimensional terms.
I think it's fine to do that. It's called a shorthand. Once you've mastered the understanding of how whatever skull in this example works, then you shorthand it. Then you stylize, and then you you just do an impression of it based on your already clear understanding of it. I think that's how you make things more efficient in the comic industry.
Yeah. So Studio Super says doing comic art is the best way to improve. Look at Jack Kirby's art when he first started Fantastic Four. Starts out as exciting but pretty standard, and then as he goes, it evolves.
Yeah.
So Studio Super agrees with you.
Exactly, and everyone should agree with me, because I think for this point in particular,
does anybody agree with me that you should practice before you start?
No. Why would they?
Put ones in the chat if you think you should practice fundamentals before you start.
And put exclamation points if you agree with me, because you should. Yeah, it like you learn so much by doing. This is the doing that you need to do. All you're doing is just like prep work to just push something down the line. It doesn't, like, you need to learn as you go, like in between chapters, or when you reach a wall that you can't overcome, that's when you study. And once you can, and everyone says like a good study technique is learn and then do, because that'll cement it in your brain. If you learn the technique behind it and then you replicate it for something that you need to complete, like a comic.
I've heard of this. Being able to apply things you learn makes it stick in your brain. But what if you drew 100 boxes instead?
It's helpful. Like, you want to jump in on that every once in a while, but learning by doing, that's all you need to do.
Andy asked, did I have to redraw any pages? I'm actually going to look real quick and see if anything jumps out. Okay. I don't think so, though. But there was I did add pages because I thought some pages weren't doing their full job.
Yep. Oh, I did say from the beginning, if you're wanting to make a story that's fully complete, you should take a book out of the manga standard, because the manga standard for a pilot chapter is typically always a little bit over 50 pages. And that's because that's kind of the ideal length to tell a short story in that can get people truly invested. The reading time kind of equates out to like a 20-minute episode of anime. So it works out pretty well in that way. And so
I agree with you. Every Western comic that I've picked up recently has felt like the prologue to a story. Yeah. And I can actually give a great example. A writer that I think is very talented. What's his name? I'm blanking on his name. He made the comic Dawn Runner. And it was great. It was fantastic. It felt like the first 5 minutes of an hour-long TV show. And I have not picked up the second issue because of that.
Yeah, because they haven't hooked you. They haven't gotten you attached to anyone.
Manga clearly wins in terms of robustness in the first chapter, getting you hooked, getting you to want to read more.
Yeah. So I gave you that advice, and you definitely took it. You shortened it as much as you could, but then had to add pages back, because I was like, hey, go for 50-something pages. That's the ideal there. And then you're like,
you did.
I could make it 36, and then you're like,
I resisted for as long as I could. Yeah. By the way, guys, this started as an 8-page comic.
Yeah, I remember that stage. Yeah. And that would still be a good 8-page comic, by the way, if you want to make this
a little
short story out of it.
I got more into it, and I took what I thought was fun in those 8 pages and then just expanded on them.
Yeah.
The thing that survived was the whole wrestling ring scene, pretty much.
Yeah. So you can just take the 8 pages of them wrestling and call that a day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got
And then it
Studio
evolved
Super.
to like,
Oh, yes, Studio Super saying, learn the fundamentals, but just because you learn the fundamentals doesn't guarantee perfection. For me, I struggle with perfection in my art, and it cost me a lot of time trying to learn to let go, to accept that not everything will turn out exactly how I envision it. This is exactly how you act about everything, Kadin.
that's funny.
Yeah, and I think that's why you emphasize, oh, you should practice before you do it, because you want it to turn out perfect, which just can't be done in art. Like we had a nice philosophical conversation about can perfection be achieved in art, and I say with an absolute certainty no, and therefore you shouldn't try to strive for it.
Yeah, and you know what? By the end of this experience, I've come around on that because I have intentionally let some mistakes stay, and I'm not
Yes.
allowing myself to fix them.
I never
Just
noticed
because
that.
if I don't close the book on them, then I could potentially just keep fixing mistakes forever.
Yes, exactly.
There are some arms and hands in this comic that I hate looking at, but they're going to stay there.
Yeah, like sometimes this is just the best you can do is just fine. And again, this is something that I definitely pick up from the manga industry. Is just they have to get these things out in a week, and that there's a what's it called, creativity through what is it,
Restriction or
Restriction.
necessity,
yeah, something
limitation.
Like that. There's a specific way of wording it, but it's true that it comes through, like real creativity comes through when you have these limitations put on you. And if you're always trying to strive to make this perfect chapter of a comic, this issue, then first of all, you're just not going to get anywhere. And second of all, it's going to actually lack a certain something because it's going to be so clean and polished. You might as well have just had an AI write it or something. You know, it's like it's too inhuman at that point. People kind of like to see the flaws in some ways. They like to see skill, but flaws are also very human. What's up?
How do you balance the main plot with making a single issue feel satisfying? Did I put you on the spot? I'm sorry.
I'm actually not exactly sure what you mean by that. Can you elaborate a bit?
So you have the overarching plot of the whole series.
Mm-hmm.
Take your Atlas Plane comic for example, and then you have each individual installment. How do you make sure each individual installment feels satisfying on its own? While
I'd
also,
say for manga, which is pretty much the only form of comics I know, that doesn't always happen, but the best of the mangaka do make that happen, which is very, very impressive considering the average weekly chapter is less than 20 pages.
Really?
And if I can, and less than 20 is practically nothing. But
So
if I could pull up an example,
weekly chapters of manga is shorter than a normal comic book in the West.
yes, but the trade-off is that they come out weekly.
Yeah, that's true. They come out monthly over here.
Yeah. But one example of like I say it's like truly masterful when a mangaka can pull it off, that you have what feels like a complete story within a single chapter. And I think the best way to do that is to have a consistent theme or through line for the chapter, even if it's not a complete story in and of itself. So I think one great example of that is the manga I've been reading lately for Good Time Zone. We do a show there where we just read through manga. Is Kagurabachi, the best new hit manga that I cannot stop singing the praises of. And
this was the manga that was memed on, right?
Yes, it was a big meme. It's like everyone was saying, it's the best manga that's ever come out before Chapter 1 released. And then it turned out to be like the best manga that's ever come out. Or that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's amazing. It really is. It's the next big hit. I'm certain of it. But
so what makes it so good?
This I think this one is a fine way to do it. But in the first page of this chapter, that's only like 19-ish pages, they set up this character here. And this character has blinded himself, and he's saying like, worldly passions, anger, and desire lead people to hell. Like he's an extreme Buddhist kind of fundamentalist.
Hmm.
And they make few jokes about how he regrets blinding himself pretty frequently because he misses looking at porn. But he's always just like, yeah, worldly desires and stuff. Like it's all about how this character is dealing with that, and now his compound is being attacked by bad guys, and he has to, fight them to kill them and stop them from trying to kill him. And he's fighting in front of a Buddha statue, and
how many pages is the first chapter?
The first chapter is probably 50 something, like all pilots for Shonen Jump in particular are.
And it tells like you were satisfied by the time you got to the end of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
By the way, Taylor says this is peak.
Yeah. And it also shows that the main character here, Chihiro, is having trouble cutting through this wooden plank. So it's kind of like tying Buddhism to the skill of the sword and all this stuff. And so it goes through the chapter and it just develops this one idea. This guy is dealing with his confliction between violence and the Buddhism that he wants to uphold, and his skill with. Sorry, Shonen Jump's app is pretty bad with this jumping around stuff.
It's okay. There's a main idea that this first chapter wrestles with.
And so at the very beginning, this main character Chihiro struggling to cut down the bamboo, and then the blind swords guy is the one who cuts through it. So it's just like I'm describing it poorly, but generally there's just there's a visual connection from the beginning to the end of the chapter, and there's a strong thematic theme from the beginning to the end of the chapter. There's no real story to it. This chapter is only about how he's fighting off some bad guys. But because he made an effort to have the first page and the last page match, and everything in between is making a through line for it, that feels like a satisfying read week to week, because it's just like, that was nice. It was this chapter about this guy named Samura who's dealing with his conflicting violence versus Buddhism, and it's just like, yeah, that's satisfying. So that's how the shorter chapters deal with not being able to fit in a full story.
Okay. Studio Super says, for me, when it comes to comics, specifically of the superhero persuasion, they love the first issues of Superman and Batman because you don't see their backstories, but you see them in action. And there's more coming. And you are interested through the feats they commit. You don't even get their backstories till way later. I agree. I think backstories are they're a bit overrated. I think character actions in the moment are what tell you about the character more than anything else, and backstories are kind of like lore. And lore is not nearly as interesting as nerds think it is.
I would agree with that, but I do think backstories are great for developing a character through a timeline, to see whether or not they've grown or what's influencing their decisions now without having to just say it out loud.
Bobo says, don't say that to a One Piece fan. I would, but I would give them the allowance that One Piece does flashbacks particularly well, in my opinion. Which we don't need to get into that because we're supposed to be talking about first issues.
Yeah, but yeah, like especially for first issues, you don't need necessarily to have a backstory type. This is who I am now, type of thing. You just need the characters to be compelling and interesting and go on arcs and just have that hook to them. That's
I want to
what
say
people care about.
What really unlocked writing for me was to give myself these 3 steps. And these 3 steps could be 1 page each, or they could be 2 pages, and then 3 pages might be pushing it. But it's basically set up a threat, and then have the characters react to it, and then resolve that threat. And then do that over and over and over until you get to the end. And you still need to do like an overarching circular plot structure for it to be good. But if you keep those 3 steps in that order over and over and over again, there will be momentum driving it to the very end.
And ideally, the first and last steps lead into the next ones or lead from the previous ones.
Oh yeah, there's the famous Matt Trey and someone else. Who's the other guy?
I thought Matt and
Matt
Trey
Stone,
they're
Trey
both,
Parker.
Yeah, they're their first names.
Yeah, they said they gave the advice that between each beat you want to say therefore and but instead of and, because if you can say this happens therefore that happens, or this happens but this happens, then you have
that implies connection between each of the events. Yeah.
And nothing is just randomly happening.
Yeah.
That gets complicated though when you start doing several plot lines that are running concurrently alongside of each other.
And I do think in general, if you have to break that rule, which is fine to do, if you think it works well for the plot, it's generally people are much more willing to accept random stuff happening if it makes it harder for the heroes. So.
So, if you don't mind, maybe we can switch gears for a minute. Instead of talking about craft, I know a lot of people are really interested in things like marketing and how to get people interested in your comic, and I have thoughts on that.
Okay, yeah, that's the area that I struggle with in particular. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about it, because maybe I can learn a couple more things.
I have a list of tips that I've written down here. I'll go through it, and I won't dwell on each one. The very first one is where you're posting matters more than the amount of views and likes that you get on that post. And an example of this would be one time Gail Simone asked people to link to their Kickstarters, and I posted mine underneath her tweet, and it was at the very bottom. Like, it got hardly any attention, and she herself did not engage with it at all. But because it was underneath Gail Simone's tweet, I still got about 10 pre-launch followers off of that.
Oh.
Because her audience is the audience that wants to read comic books.
So in general, you want to find audiences that are similar to yours and just kind of insert yourself into them.
Yeah, I tend to think of like streams or rivers, and some have the fish that will take your bait, and some don't.
Okay.
Second tip. Nobody likes to be sold to, and marketing should never look or sound like marketing. If it does, then you're doing it wrong. And I see this all the time. Like, just never say, hey, check out my comic. Ever.
Speaking of which, post a link to your Kickstarter campaign in the
Hey
chat.
guys, check out my comic.
I don't think I saw you post it before. We want to make sure that you
No, I did.
Oh, did it get banned or something? Did it get taken out by YouTube's auto mod system?
Okay. Maybe.
Kieran
says true. The next is to really know what your broad appeal is of your comic, and you really need to be able to distill it down into one sentence. I said something to a friend, and they said, oh, that's a good way of thinking about it. And the advice was, what would you say to a friend of yours to get them to watch a TV show that you like? Like, you're not going to bore them with like details upon details and like the whole synopsis. You're going to say like one really catchy hook to get them interested, and if they bite, then you start to unravel more of the story to them.
Yeah, it's called the elevator pitch because you need to be able to tell it within the ride of a single elevator. Like the scenario being you meet an exec in an elevator, and it's just like,
maybe not even that.
Yeah,
like, elevators last a while. That's like 10 seconds. You're
on an elevator for a 3-floor building.
Yeah, you need to have like a 2-second sentence that sums everything up. Really, just like, what is it at its core?
Yep.
My next tip would be, people see you even if they don't interact with you. So to understand that there are hundreds of people who are getting an impression of you and everything you do, even if they never engage, they never like your tweets, and that you are putting out vibes the entire time.
Yeah. So posting into the void isn't necessarily the worst thing.
No, it's just that it might feel like the void, but it's not. And it's important to be yourself, I guess. To be the person that you want to be at all times, so that people to get the right impression. don't try to be too hooky, I suppose.
Yeah.
Oh, this one I have written down is one of my favorites. Your peers are not your fans. Don't expect them to be, and definitely do not rely on them.
Yeah.
And that is something I see way too much of in the indie comic space.
Yeah, it's at the I guess what? I'm gonna bring up One Piece real quick.
Okay, go for it.
Eiichiro Oda never refers to his readers as fans. He always refers to them as readers, and he elaborated on it is because just like he has to assume in order to keep himself moving forward with the right intentions that any reader will drop off after 5 years, and that's how he keeps his himself like ready for just bringing in new people to look at his stuff. So
he never takes it for granted.
Yes, he never takes it for granted, and it's easy to do, so you always have to check yourself. And that's by just assuming you don't have fans, you have readers.
I like that. I saw something about Oda recently that was very heartwarming. It was about how he goes into this place, and I forget where it's at, but there are kids there, and they're all watching One Piece.
Yeah.
And he says that is what drives him.
Yeah, he wrote that like probably 20 years ago at this point.
20 years ago. That's insane. 20 years ago, everybody was watching One Piece.
Yep. At least in Japan.
Wow. Okay, and my last little tip is that people make, and this isn't true of everybody, but it's very true of people who are just starting out. But people are going to make a judgment about you before they make a judgment about your work. And it's because they have no incentive to really give your work a fair chance unless it's just that compelling on its own. But usually what's going to happen is they're going to decide they like you, and then they are going to decide to give you the benefit of the doubt. So keep that in mind, that as much as this sucks, you are kind of also the product, and there's no escaping that in the year 2024.
That's true. I mean, nobody wants to read, like I say, how getting the first page turn is hard. It's, yeah, if you're, I noticed posting comics onto Twitter particularly, it's just like, that's a lot of boxes that you need to read, even if it's just a single Twitter post.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like, how are you going to get people to click to a different link and then read a page? You know, it's, yeah, you need to get people to want to just, yeah, give you the chance.
Yeah, they have to like you. And I think this does go away eventually, like once you have momentum and people are hearing about your series not through you, then they don't need to like you first, because word of mouth is doing its job. But if you are just starting out, that is a true case.
Yeah. Oh. Man, all good advice. It's stuff I need to put into practice probably if I want to promote my comics.
Yeah, you need to be active more.
I tried. It's hard. It's hard.
It is. It really is, and I wish it wasn't the way.
I went viral with one tweet, and I think I can just coast off that for the rest of my life.
I mean, that tweet keeps coming back, so maybe you will.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. By the way, follow me on Twitter at 1000 Stupid Words. You
should. Ben's great. Ben is just such a good friend. I could never say enough good things about Ben.
Yeah, it's all stuff that I get excited about because it's cool. So
yeah,
I'm not really helping you. I'm helping me.
All right, I got some things to read from chat. Studio Super has a tip to add. If you feel overwhelmed writing for a whole group, don't write it for a group. Write it for one person. One person you would feel will reflect an entire group pretty well. See if you can incorporate things that one person would like to see and such. This is how I see it. Anyways, when there's people to say different things, it's simple to whittle down to one. Yeah, that's pretty good advice, is to have an avatar in your mind of who you're writing for. In my case, that's me.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the easiest answer to come to, right? If you are drawing something that you know you'll like, then anyone who's similar to you would also like that.
And I have to assume that I'm not so unique that there are not also thousands of me out there, or at least thousands of people adjacent to me that will like what I like.
Yeah.
And I think that's the easiest thing to do, is to say, if I like this, then other people will. And
What's that phrase? If you're 1 in a million, there's still 7,000 people like you.
yes. Is this time lapse still going on, or has it?
No, I
looped out?
accidentally paused it. I thought it was still going, so I finished now.
Okay.
So now I've just got my mind going.
Okay. Kieran says you do need to be more active, and
Yep.
Andrew says draw what you'd like to see. 100%. And I was going to mention this earlier, but we moved on from it, I think. But there's some advice about learning a new language, and that is, don't pick what's easy, but pick the one that you're most interested in, because that is the one that you're going to stick with even when it's hard. And it will get hard. It is true of comics too. I think you need to have an idea that feels right, because you want to be, it needs to be something that you're genuinely interested in. It can't be something that you're trying to do because you want to hit certain demographics. At least not if you're a one-man show. It's too much work.
That's definitely true. It's
see you later, Studio Super.
Oh yeah, see ya. Thanks for giving all those extra tidbits there. It's really appreciated.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to find that though. At least for people like me, it's hard to find what you'll always be interested in. I love bouncing around to different ideas, which is probably why I've just been bouncing around to so many different comics. I've made like technically 3 different comic intros in the past couple of years.
Yeah, and you definitely don't want to do too many, because I've seen so many people tell me that they regret doing too many. It's bad for growing an audience.
That is true. So
and it's like, yep.
So I still need to figure out a way to be interested enough in a single idea to see it through to the end. So
yeah, you really just have the 2 though. You finished Mod.
No, I mean technically, just because I said, hey, it's done now.
Well, that's how all comics end.
That's a lot of them end, and I didn't really have any other ending planned for Mod, so it's fine. But yeah, let's see. I'm just trying to think of what are things with the first issue that we were talking about.
Let's see if I have anything. My little notes here.
Yeah, like I've still got to figure out how I'm going to release Atlas Plane, because in case anyone's unaware, because I haven't talked about it too much, I made a 52-ish page comic myself, and I haven't put it out anywhere because I don't know how to promote it, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to get back to it also.
Ben refuses to release this. I'm one of the few people in the world that own a copy of it.
Yeah, I made a printing of like 20 issues for myself and my friends, and yeah, I can't figure out what to do with it yet.
All right, I have a tip.
All right.
When making your very first comic, and I think this is good advice for it being your very first comic, so you're not like the first issue, but the first time you're doing it, and that is to plot a course, but don't fill in the map completely.
Oh,
you want to leave space.
That is absolutely a good tip.
Yeah, I could not tell you how many times throughout the course of this past year, because again, this took me a year to draw. I would come up with an idea at 3 in the morning that I thought was brilliant, and then actually implement it, and the story ended up being better for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think creativity is a muscle, and the more you use it, the more your brain gets good at making these connections and finding ways to improve stories.
Absolutely. And it definitely pays to be able to improvise, because some things just don't end up working by the time you get to paper. And sometimes you think of just better things along the way that you wish you could implement. And the idea is just, you want to write out, you want to know where you're starting and where you're ending. I think it was the creators of Lost who said it was like a road trip, where it's like, you know where you're starting from, and you know you want to end up somewhere in particular, but the stops along the way can always change, and that's probably the best way to do it, because that way you can have a satisfying ending in mind and have it, be written with the goal of completing that. But if something isn't working out for whatever reason, there you go. You get to change it. And if you think of something really cool, it's always useful to be able to do that.
Yeah, and it's important to remember that your comic is not set in stone, like probably ever, if we're being honest, but at the very least, not until you release it.
Yeah, it's
So at
not
any
done
stage,
until it's released. It's
But now we're being hypocrites because we were telling people not to be perfectionists and to not go back and change things.
well, I'd say change things as you're making progress. Like the way I script things out is I script out kind of just bullet points. It's like, okay, first I want this to happen, then I want this to happen, then I want this to happen. And like I have a bit of trouble just writing out humor in a script where I'm just getting all the plot points going. And so I'm just like, okay, leave space for myself to figure out funny things to happen in between here, because I'm sure I'll think of something by the time I see the characters being drawn into the scene and how they would react to things. And that's worked very well for me.
One more thing I could say about creating your first comic is you're going to probably solicit your friends for feedback, but I would be very wary of this because the odds of your friends being a good sample size or a sample for your comic in particular is slim. Like I can't speak to everybody, but my in real life friend groups, they do not all like the same things. So they're all going to have different opinions about your comic, and you have to be very careful about which feedback you actually want to internalize, because it's not for them most likely, and they're not in the best circumstances to give you honest feedback because they probably wouldn't have otherwise, but if they weren't your friend.
Yeah, and also keep in mind, a lot of readers or viewers or whoever don't know what they want, and
that's true.
Like it sounds demeaning, but it's very true. You don't know what makes you clap and go hooray until you're actually the one sitting down and working on it. And like,
they can tell you what they don't like. They cannot tell you what they like.
Like for Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z in particular, it's just like, yeah, they want a cool character who gets angry and shouts and kills people, because that's what Goku does and all that stuff. But that's not really what they want out of Dragon Ball. They want the characters, and they want just to have fun with the drama of it, and then they get the catharsis via punching. And so people say, I like the punching, but they don't know all the steps that lead up to it. That's a very, very simplified example, but it's very
I'm really
true
not
to
sure
every
how
step of
Dragon
the
Ball
process.
works, to be honest with you, because you could describe that story as like Goku's really, really strong, but Frieza's really, really, really strong.
It's the back and forth. It's the drama of it. It's the build up and release. It's all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's just, that's my example of people just misinterpreting what they want, because until you study the craft, it is genuinely hard to tell. It's not a diss towards anyone. It's just, that's just kind of how artistic stuff like this works.
Yeah, and if you're in a situation where it's hard to get people who genuinely want to read your comic, that would be someone who would be a reader of your comic, I would say stick to your guns. More than anything else, like just stick to your guns and make the thing that you want to make.
Yeah, it's like, it's hard to find people that you can actually get this kind of feedback from. I am one of the rare people, I feel, who's just like genuinely interested in a product being what it is. Like Kadin's comic, I just want it to be the best version of Kadin's comic it can be. I don't want it to be my comic. As much as I fail at that because I accidentally put in too much One Piece influence in my suggestions. But
you are way better at that than most people that I know. And
but I feel like that's a pretty rare.
I'm not.
I feel like that's a pretty rare mindset to have, honestly. So, yeah, it's
being able to remove yourself and like take someone else's story and try to help them make the best version of it is hard. Because I want to improve it in ways that align with my sensibilities, and I have a really hard time getting out of that, which is why between me and Ben, it's mostly a one-way street. Like I like helping Ben, but most of my suggestions just like are misses. Whereas Ben will say something to me and I'm like, huh, that's actually really good. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a difference. And so, from my perspective, if you're having trouble finding someone to give you feedback, just go for what you want. That spark will be there. That whatever makes it uniquely you will be in there, whether you realize it or not. And then you've just got to put it out there and hope that people recognize what that spark is. And if people do, that's where you can start to double down. So it's pretty vague, and it's not going to be easy, but you basically just have to do, is my advice there. Do until you find someone who notices you. And at that point, that's when you can start getting feedback from the people who have noticed you, and from among those, the people who know what they're doing.
And if you find somebody who you gel with, man, don't let them go. Because editors are like therapists. You have to find the right one that matches you.
Yep. And that's kind of just like there's a group of artists, that a very small group so far, just because I'm antisocial, but there's a group of artists that we have in a Discord server, and I want to invite people there specifically because I want to surround myself with people who impress me and who inspire me and to do all this cool stuff, because that's kind of like, you want to surround yourself with people who will push you in whatever way you can think of. And sometimes that's just all you really need. You don't necessarily need advice, but you need, if you feel inadequate next to a person, but you still respect them, but you're still like, oh, I'm so impressed by them, then that's a good feeling to have, and try to bring that to you if you can. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. Sometimes you're just not compatible as people, but I've asked probably 4 people to come in, and one or two of them did. And that's probably a really high hit rate, honestly, but I made some very good art friends because of that, and they still are pushing me to be better just because I want to match their coolness in some way or another. So.
Yeah, you know how Ben makes me feel inadequate is he'll message me and say things like, hey, I wonder if I can finish another comic before you finish yours.
I think I did say that. Yeah, I was gonna say I was gonna finish chapter 2 before you finish your chapter 1.
You probably could have if you weren't so busy.
Yeah, I probably could have. But yeah, find artists to impress you and try to socialize a little bit with them. Don't be a fanboy about it, but try to be not a friend, but try to treat them as a person and as someone that you think is cool, and see if you can strike up a conversation.
So let's see, we went over perfectionism, we talked about craft a little bit, the importance of first pages, I went over some marketing tips, now we're talking about relationships with editors. Is there anything that we should talk about before we call this a wrap?
Let's take it from the chat. Anyone curious about how Lugi stacked up, and how if you're like, oh man, I wish I could do this particular thing, what you got for us?
If there's any questions, and it doesn't have to be about anything in particular, you can ask whatever you want, then now's your time.
Yeah.
Taylor says he's read a ton of stories, and it's hard for him to put what he likes into words.
Yeah, yep. That's very tricky.
I spend a ton of time asking myself why I like the things I do.
Yeah, it makes it very difficult. It's
still a challenge.
Yeah. It's because my problem that I experience personally is that I get really invested into one particular idea, and everything that branches from this, like, oh, if this is happening, then this is happening, that kind of thing, and then I just end up fully recreating the exact thing I'm inspired by, and not being inspired by everything I've read. And yeah, it's just generally hard to make a story out of just all the elements that you like. So
okay, Kieran asks, what do you find difficult, easy about running the Kickstarter campaign? Making the perks, extra assets, constant posting. What did you learn to help run another one? The difficult part is probably the constant posting, because it's something that I don't like to do. I feel like I'm annoying everybody by doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just something that I suppress because I know that I have to. And
Yeah.
once the campaign's over with, I'll probably disappear for a little while and be quiet just to make up for it. But yeah, it gives me an icky, gross feeling pushing it on people, and I try to find fun ways to do it so that everybody is having a good time and it's not just me like shoving my comic into people's faces.
If I can interject real quick, that is an important thing to do, because my dad, who's a financial advisor and like successful businessman, he really knows everything about like that kind of aspect of things. And how he got his very successful own office from Edward Jones, the what investment company. He got his own office started in a town with like 500 people, because he went around and knocked on doors saying, "Hey, I do this in case you need anything like this. I'm your guy. I know what I'm doing." And going up and knocking on people's doors is like the single most, it feels invasive, it feels uncomfortable, it feels like you're being way too pushy. But he said that's what you need to do if you want to sell, if you want people to notice you, is you need to stand out there and do it, even if it might come across as rude, but as long as you're respectful towards the people that you're talking to, then that's how you make sales. So
I agree with that 100%. Nobody knows who you are, and the people who are following you do not see all of your posts, and so it's probably going to be okay if you get a little pushy. I know it feels bad though, so I'm there with you.
Yeah, you just got to push through it. That's you can still do that and be respectful.
And speaking to what your dad did about knocking door to door, I think the digital equivalent of that is DMing people that you don't know.
Yep.
And I did that 3 times, and all 3 times were successful. I DM people and I personalized each DM. Like, I looked at their profile, I kind of saw who they were, what they were into, and then I messaged them and say, "Hey, blah blah blah, thing about you. Here's a comic I think you'll like." And all of them responded positively. And I shared to a Discord group of comic creators. I said, "Hey, this warm outreach is going really well for me. I'm 3 for 3," and they all unanimously told me, "Don't do that." And the reason is, and I think it's a fair reason, it might not be correct, but this is what they said, is that comics is so small that if you annoy too many people, you basically, like, you've ruined your reputation. So you could go door to door in a city, but DM to DM in comics is like, once you do 100 of those, everybody thinks you're annoying.
Yeah, I mean, again, it just comes down to a level of respect. It's like, am I posting enough? Am I messaging this person in particular to a point that I'm being annoying and understanding what they want? But yeah, I tried the same thing because I am a freelance editor, and I got my first big clients by just sending emails out. And I was insanely surprised by how many responses I got from channels that had like 500,000 to 1 million subscribers. And a lot of them were just politely saying no, or I'll keep you in mind if I ever need someone. But that's way better for you, right, than applying to applications? Oh yeah, because then I'm just in a sea of people who are equally qualified, or seemingly equally as qualified as me, whereas I'm the only one that they've seen if I'm reaching out of nowhere. But I made sure that it was always personalized. I only messaged people that I would genuinely want to work with because their YouTube channel or whatever overlapped with my interests. I wrote it in a way that it was appealing to them. What do you want out of this? And I wrote to that. You want someone who is reliable because you never met me. You want someone who's skilled. I've worked 13 years. You want someone who's able to help you with your YouTube channel. I'm interested because of this. Like, always thinking of the other person that you're talking to, and that's a level of respect there. So it works very, very well, surprisingly well.
To return to Kieran's question, though, about what's easy about running a Kickstarter campaign, and that is that it's largely out of your control. Like, it is and it isn't. Like, you have a lot of control about how well your Kickstarter does before you launch. Like, getting people interested in it, that all happens before.
Yeah,
but with comics, at least, when you launch, it is basically the audience on the platform that decides which projects are winners and which ones are not. And that it kind of sucks because it feels like you can't do anything to help yourself. Like I had a video that you were the voice in that got 10,000 views, and I don't think that led to a single backer. So...
That's funny. I blew out
Yeah.
my voice for nothing.
Yeah, well, it amused me. But yeah, you have to create something that people on the platform like, which there are preferences that if you do a little bit of research, you will quickly find. That basically it's LGBT, boobs, and horror. So
Those are the
combine all
big
three of
ones.
those.
But so yeah, I'm guessing Kieran's been asking about this because he's going to be starting pre-launch soon. So what is there something secret that you feel like nobody would know
Just lost
for a
the backer.
Kickstarter campaign?
It's funny.
Okay, clever joke. Send it back. No.
Bobo says, "I think you did a good job posting about Loogie. Thank you."
Yeah. But is there anything like that even like someone who's like studied this a bit, is there anything that you picked up that was like nobody does this, even the good ones? Is there anything you found there?
Ooh, I'm certain I have an answer to this. Whether or not my brain can recall it on
Let
the
me scroll through the
spots.
page a bit, see if it sparks anything for you. Got your issue 1. What's the plot? Got your funny jokes in here.
That is something that I think people are doing more and more, but still not quite enough, is put your preview pages at the top. Like, as far to the top as you can. You want to go through the plot, the premise, what it is, how many pages, but then after that, the number one thing that everybody agrees on that they want to see immediately is interior pages.
Oh yeah,
Like,
absolutely. They'd want to see what's the product I'm getting into.
yeah, but you will find campaign pages that have those like after they introduce the team, which nobody cares about the team in indie comics unless you have a very well-known name, and even then, it can probably wait.
Yeah. Yep. People are selfish. They want what they want, and giving them just like, oh, I have a family of 5 and I'm starving. That won't move anyone.
Mm-hmm. Like art gives an impression no matter what. You can't really avoid it. So lead with that. Lean into it. Make that your strength.
So I noticed you had a lot of success with.
Happy Halloween, Harry. Hope you had a good time in America.
Oh yeah, have a good rest, good sleep. Exclusive. It's definitely been very, very helpful.
Yeah, I was very surprised at how people received that because I did not know if it was going to go over well or not.
Yeah, people like their BOGOs.
I mean, that's something that I don't think
FOMOs.
I don't think people have done. Like you have all kinds of variant covers, but I haven't seen anybody else change the entire comic.
Yeah, that was an inspired choice. As soon as I heard you talk about that, I was like, yes, do it. Plan every page to do that. Got extra
And I think it
merchandise.
works good with Loogie because she is a slime. I don't know if that idea would go over as well if it was just like a punchy punch man character, and it's like Kiri has red hair.
Yeah.
Not sure I care as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've covered just about everything, and we've been streaming for over an hour, so this has been a pretty good stream. Maybe we can do more things like this. It wasn't as terrible as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I think it was pretty nice. Your microphone
Yeah, it
got
was
a
nice.
little
I'm
got a
being
little
dramatic.
wonky at points, but otherwise I think this went pretty well. No one seemed to be getting mad at us in the chat, which is very nice to see.
Although
yeah.
they completely disobeyed me earlier when I said put ones in the chat. There were no ones. There was everything but ones.
I got an exclamation point and a 1 exclamation point, so I think I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, Indra's mad at us.
Okay, well we got one out of 10 met, or 1 out of 9. I guess someone left. People is fine to be mad at us.
Yeah. For the 10 people that watch this for the entire time, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really cool of you.
If you haven't, which you probably have, but if you haven't, go ahead and back Lukey. And
yeah,
it will officially end tomorrow at noon. And
yep, that counter's correct. It's got 12 hours and 33 minutes left.
If I wake up tomorrow and it's somehow reached 20K, then I'll be very, very happy. But otherwise,
you deserve 30,000 at least. You spent a whole year on this. You need to get a 30,000 year salary for it.
I'm just over halfway what I deserve. No,
maybe next time.
It's kind of irritating because my brain has this importance attached to 20K, but that's no more important than 18,400. It really isn't.
Well, I mean, it's an extra $1,500, which you could spend on sodas and candies.
That's not it. That's not why my brain likes it. It's because it's a shiny whole number.
Yeah. But 18,000 is a lot, though. Like, it's insane amount.
It's more than enough.
So, it's really cool. I'm so excited that this has become such a success for you, which you fully deserve even more. But I'm happy.
I'm very
at least
lucky.
This.
I've been very fortunate. A lot of really cool people have helped me. You being one of them, but other people like Dan Mendoza, Isaac Bell, Mike Tenner, Chris Albright. All these people who like have
what can I say? It's
advertised for me, which is bizarre.
If they're anything like me, I want to help people who help themselves. So everything that you get is because of you.
And the sheer amount of fan art, my goodness.
Yeah, you're reposting tons of that.
That is surreal. It's so cool though. It's probably my favorite thing. I'm gonna have such a hard time narrowing it down to 2 pages of fan art. I might cheat and add more pages. Thank you, Indra.
Indra made one at the very last minute because
he did. He locked in and got it done.
Yeah,
and it's great.
Yeah, thank you all for stopping by. It's just fun. It's nice to talk about art stuff again. We should do this a bit more often whenever we can find the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And to any Sketchy Fellows fans that catch this on the rewind, hey.
Hello.
Are you going to keep this up? Or?
We will come back eventually, probably.
Yeah, once we're both so rich that we don't need to make money.
Yeah, this channel doesn't make money, but this is the channel that I like doing stuff for probably the most. Maybe
it was a good time
too. But yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up.
All right.
Thanks to everybody, and have a good night. Have a great Halloween. Oh my! What the fuck? No way. No way.
What's up? What happened?
It just went to 20,000.
I think it's lying, right? Hold on.
It has to be. Like this has to be like a joke. Like someone's pledged to an amount.
I'm refreshing
that's,
again. What the hell? It looks real. What happened?
There's no way.
What happened?
I'm gonna check it out. I'm looking at it right now.
Look at it. Look for it. What? Who did this?
Nobody. It's not. Oh wait.
Did someone cheat the system?
Yes.
What?
Somebody pledged $1,600.
They just pledged it? Like, they just added?
They pledged to Ultimate Slime Enthusiast tier, which is the highest one, but there's no way. I guess I get to. I have the achievement now. So whenever they take that away from me, I still made 20K.
Yeah. Even if it's just for show, you might want to follow up with that first. Yeah, this is on record for posterity.
I'm getting the screen cap now.
Wow, that was.
I won't say your name for privacy reasons, but thank you.
You might want to reach out to them just in case.
Yeah,
Man.
I should do that. I'll message them like, hey man.
That is huge. That is a huge amount there.
Yeah.
Wow.
You probably want to like lower that.
Maybe just a smidge. I think you can buy all of it for like 100. So just so you know.
Yeah, he's trying to get the rights.
Yeah, basically a scripted moment. Wow.
True.
All right.
Oh.
Well, we hit the shiny number at the very least. That was, I genuinely didn't believe that for the first minute.
Yeah, because like the backer amount didn't go up at all. Crazy.
Wow.
20K loogie dollars. All right, let's get out of here.
Yeah, we need to leave and process this. Thank you so much for stopping by, everyone. And let us know if you want anything. You can reach us on Twitter. You can always just send us a message or something. Send us a tweet saying, "Hey, you're cool," or whatever else. All right.
Hey.
Goodbye.